and it is but natural that we have a topic that will energize all of you. A topic that will be discussed by two former Corps commanders of Strike Corps. The topic is India's strategic confidence post Galwan. I invite Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain and Lieutenant General S.S. Mishra to the stage. Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, PVSM, UYSM, AVSM, SM, VSM, and BAR is amongst the India's foremost strategic thinkers. Known widely in the Indian Army as Scholar Warrior, he has held extremely sensitive appointments like GOC 21 Corps and GOC 15 Corps. Through most of his 40 years of illustrious career, General Hasnain has served in turbulent environment and hotspots, from Sri Lanka to Siachen Glacier, from the northeast to Jammu and Kashmir, and in United Nations operations from Mozambique to Rwanda. He has seen it all in crucial appointments. He served 7 tours in Jammu and Kashmir, decorated in almost all of them, and knows the J&K conflict comprehensively. He's today one of the foremost writers and analysts on Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan, Middle East, and transnational extremist violence. He's a much sought after speaker and writes for major Indian newspapers. He's currently Chancellor, University of Kashmir, and member of the National Disaster Management Authority. Lieutenant General Shashank Shekhar Mishra, AVSM VSM, was commissioned in 17th Battalion of the Kumaon Regiment in June 1983. During his long and illustrious career spanning nearly 4 decades, he has held important command and staff appointments that include GOC of a mountain division in counterinsurgency area, IG operations of the National Security Guard, Director General Infantry, and GOC of Mountain Strike Corps. Prior to his retirement, this year in July, he served as the Quartermaster General for nearly 2 years. General Hasnain, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible at the back? Thank you. Thank you very much. Rajan, thank you very much for that introduction. This morning, whatever had to be said has actually really been said. Everything about the northern borders, that's where the obsession of India today lies, perhaps with China. So we intend to make this session a more generic kind of a session to look at other comprehensive aspects of national security. Fortunate, we got General Mishra with us, who has been the commander of India's Mountain Strike Corps, the 17th Corps. And coincidentally, Galwan happened on the next day after Galwan, General Mishra actually handed over command of 17th Corps. Right, right. So it was a transition phase that he saw. So I'm going to take you on a journey of India's strategic confidence, starting with that. Taking the northern borders, and General Mishra's experience encompasses both much more the northeast, of course a lot on Jammu and Kashmir, so we'll address both these issues. We'll look at India's national comprehensive national security. We'll look at Ukraine and the current wars going on, etc. And see in 30 minutes how many issues that we can cover. We will cover 1 or 2 issues which were covered in the past sessions too. So let me start by, first of all, stating that my personal perception is that from 2014 onwards, gradually, every year till 2020 May, India's strategic confidence kept rising. Event after event after event happened with the surgical strikes, Doklam, with Balakot, with Operation All Out and things like that. And perhaps what happened in May 2020 was a manifestation of what the Chinese felt very insecure about: the rise of a strategically oriented India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And here was a strategic leader, suddenly a popular leader, a country suddenly which was nowhere, emerging in competition, likely competition with China. So I would start straight away by asking General Mishra, first of all, in his capacity as GOC 17 Corps, did he expect the Galwan to happen? Let's start at the tactical level. Did he expect the Galwan to happen? After all, he's experienced on the LOC. He's experienced on the LAC. The army is supposed to be always prepared. Did you expect a Galwan to happen?
Firstly, sir, it's an honor to share a stage with you. He has been a mentor. He was my military secretary, and he got me to the MS branch as deputy MS to take over from General Khandare, who has also just gone round the corner. Great being here, sir. Sir, on the LSC, whenever we send our patrols, this is done in a very professional manner. We have SOPs for patrols. And while we go and we don't expect a face-off, a standoff every time, but we are prepared. Should a face-off take place, should a standoff take place, how will we react? Should it pass off peacefully and both disengage and go back? Fine. What if it escalates into something bigger? Back of the mind, that patrol leader, that the commanding officer is definitely aware. The response matrices are worked out. Who will do what, at what stage, and how it will be tackled. So, it happened on that day. There was something happening elsewhere also. And Colonel Santosh Babu and his men did what the best for the country, laid down their lives. Salute is due to them. And the whole country acknowledges their bravery.
I'll stop you there.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps take you forward. As a strike corps commander, one of your responsibilities was always to study battle psychology, the psychology of the PLA itself. And right from 1962, the Indian Army seems to have got obsessed that the Chinese or the PLA soldier was 10 feet tall and we were not capable of besting him. Do you think such a situation, such an understanding continued to exist even while you were there? Or do you feel that the Indian Army has well overcome this handicap of what was established in our minds in 1962?
So actually, the men have actually come to know. Now that this pushing and shoving has been going on for a long time in the disputed areas where they come. And invariably, the Chinese test the battalion which relieves an old battalion. You go to a new place, thus pushing and shoving, they test the battalion. You stand up to them and dominate, they are wary of you for your whole tenure. And we had seen it. There was one occasion when I was BGS of a corps in that area. The feeler came during one of the meetings there in the BPM that, will the commanding officer be there where we are going that time? Because that unit is very aggressive. So that is the kind of thing. The another feeler we got somewhere, you're wondering why are they making, generally the watershed in Sikkim is the place where we are holding most of it, 90%. So they were making roads up to the water. So casual conversation, sometimes they also talk about it. They give a feeling that these boys are, if you leave them 5 kilometers behind and expect them to climb those heights and patrol that area, possibly
so you find
may
that
not do it.
You find that the
Soft.
quality of the PLA soldier
Yes.
isn't what really is
the
spoken about.
conscripts and those for 2-3 years, we found them. So that 10 feet myth or 7
perhaps
feet
you
myth,
would give a lot of
that myth is broken, and I don't think that's true. And our soldiers are quite sturdy, and one-on-one they'll take on anybody.
You would perhaps give a lot of credit to people like General Sagat Singh.
Oh yes,
1967,
yes,
what happened at Nathula. Subsequently, Sundarongshu, 1986-87. In events of that kind,
In
the
fact,
Indian Army redeemed itself completely.
that is the place when I visited once, and I was speaking to the boys. He said when they come up here to patrol that area, absolutely, they're not even in position to talk, and that's where we offer them some juice and water and all those pleasantries happen. So it's not that 7 feet 10.
Let me take this to the higher level. Let's try and take this to the strategic level. So far, we are sticking to Galwan and things like that. And let me take a cue from some of the discussions which took place earlier. Mr. Bharat Karnad threw up some very interesting issues. Sandeep Unithan himself threw up some very interesting issues. Let me take one cue each from there. Do you think India's strategic confidence has risen to the level to what Mr. Bharat Karnad was recommending? And we've had discussions, he and I, together on television many times also. Conflict initiation with China through the nuclear dimension. The use of atomic demolition munitions on the passes from Ladakh to Arunachal. What would you have to say on that?
So we don't even consider nuclear as a weapon of any discussion. Actually, it's a tool of a deterrence. And we have taken a decision of no first use. And we are also not such a small country, like you're saying, that we don't behave responsibly and make utterances of changing the policy. That's a political call. Government will take some time. But be that as may, the question is of using tactical nukes or atomic demolition munitions. Where do you use it? There are no specific places from where it's going to come. The LSE is quite big. When you take for eastern side, Kameng and the rest of Arunachal Pradesh, eastern Arunachal Pradesh, there are very many places. And the operations in the mountains go on for a long time. I mean, it's not like plains operation that you proceed 40 kilometers. To take one post, it may take 7-10 days. The radiation we'll also be facing, so it is counterproductive. Where do you put it? You put it across? I don't think the radiation will not be confined only to 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. We may be equally affected. And that would be, to my mind, a sign of weakness. I think conventionally also.
Expression of thoughts only and alternative, and we
Yeah,
appreciate.
so that's what my feelings are. To contest Mr. Karnad, he's an expert on the subject.
Let's try and shift focus.
So,
Let's
yes,
try and
sir.
shift a little
Yes.
focus from here to exploit your very deep knowledge of the Northeast particularly. But before that, Sandeep had a very interesting observation to say with General Huda, that did the Indian Army really get itself into this 30-year morass of fighting a CICT campaign in Jammu and Kashmir to enhance its own relevance? What do you say of that? Because there are lots of views on this. Today, we may not have been in the situation that we are today to the manner in which Article 370 was rescinded virtually, the manner in which we have been able to integrate Jammu and Kashmir, the methodology, the political narratives that we are playing today. All this is possible because of a loss of many lives of the Indian Army.
Yes.
So, do you think this was a waste of time?
No, not at all, sir. In fact, Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces, I would say, are the most restrained in counterinsurgency operation. They use minimum force. Have you heard any? You see operations all over. They talk of helicopter gunships. They talk of bigger weapons, larger caliber weapons. We fight with small arms. We are most considerate, and it's only when on actionable intelligence we fight. Rampant firing is not done. Officers have been punished. People have been punished for opening fire where it was not desired. So when you're actually fighting there with a hand tied to your back, that is how these operations take a lot of time. Rashtriya Rifles is unnecessarily criticized for being tough. They have made maximum sacrifices, and we have always felt that any excesses there, even if inadvertent, will create more militancy than solve militancy. So we have been very, very considerate. And that is why our casualties have been higher. Our casualties in junior leadership has been very high. Officers have always volunteered to enter the hideouts for searches. So, and we have always, you see the graph, and who better than General Hasnain to have studied this? He knows Kashmir in and out. Every time, 2-3 years, we bring it down. That is the time when political measures, other initiatives have to be taken to enhance the administration of the state. And again, something happens and it goes up. So this is actually the army, the armed forces, paramilitary, the police, and of late police has been absolutely on the ball. So I don't think it has been a waste. We are today in a situation, a very happy situation, because of the contribution of all the armed forces and paramilitary and the police.
So
that's my take.
Perfect confidence, strategic confidence
perfect.
that we have
The
today.
unfortunate part is, tell me one country in the world which is faced with two hostile adversaries
Both
who
nuclear.
are both nuclear, who are collaborating all the time. Collaborating, coordinating, I'm saying because it's all in the open domain. Collusivity comes in the secret agreement. Something which is for illegal or deceitful means. That also has happened. Missiles have been given, nuclear technology has been given. And today an entire defense industrial base of Pakistan has been made courtesy the northern adversary. Imagine in operations, what will happen? At friendly prices, at throwaway prices, these equipment will reach that side. So you're actually fighting two adversaries. When somebody talks that reduce the strength of the army, I'm surprised. You see our terrain and you see the vastness of the borders, northern and western. I think we have to optimize, fine, but we have to be prepared, operationally ready at all times.
So once again, before bringing you back to your specialized domain of the Northeast, let me ask you one strategically oriented question. Mao in 1962 did what he did to us. And from a 6 infantry division army that we had that time, we rose to a 44 division army subsequently. Xi Jinping tried to do the same in May 2020. Do you think the Chinese should be worried that they have awakened a sleeping tiger in India again? With what is happening at the moment, with all this aspect of integration, Atmanirbharta, strategic confidence under the current leadership, etc. Do you think this idea that the Chinese may actually experiment what they wish to do in terms of war fighting on India with their equipment and take home the lessons? Do you think there's any truth to that?
We should be actually, China, 62 was a humiliation to us, definitely, because we failed on all fronts, political, bureaucratic, diplomatic, military leadership. Military leadership failed us, but the men didn't fail us. You see, all the battles of 62, men have fought very gallantly. Zangla, Walong, Shrijap, anywhere. I mean, men have not let us down. 62, 15 years of neglect, 47 to 52. What happened in 47, 48 was the momentum we carried from the Second World War. So we had the same vintage equipment, and the troops also had fought sometime back and excelled in Second World War campaigns. 15 years of neglect. You are again fighting with the same weapons and ill-clad, absolutely ill-equipped. So I would say when 62 happened, this 31 days of operations, we took lessons, and you'll be surprised, November 62 itself, the Department of Defense production came up. And then sometime later, Department 65, Department of Defense Supplies. Then they merged together defense production, and now we have the defense production and ESM separate. So we have been taking lessons from 62. 65, we took on the Pakistanis because we were a little better prepared. And 71 was a masterstroke. The only country in the world to have created another country after an operation was the 71 synergized operations by all the three forces. So I think, sir, I somehow beg to differ, because what happened on 5th of May with two divisions being, We must see what was happening that time in China and the rest of the world. China was under tremendous pressure because of the Wuhan virus, accusations being leveled on them. India's first virus, this COVID case, was detected, or if I'm correct, 27th of January 2020. And that lady in Kerala, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, she had come from Wuhan. Now the entire world was accusing them of being the originator and the spreader. That is the time they started meddling also in the South China Sea. You can see the timelines. And possibly they thought this is the best place to distract the world from those accusations that were happening. Not that it would have mattered, but they were cornered. What happened since it turned after 75 when we lost 4 Assam Rifle boys in Tulungla?
Yeah.
That was incidentally, that was also on 20th October.
The date.
I remember those dates because 20th October, they had come in 62 also. So, this bloody thing which happened, this firefight, we actually took pride, 45 years, nothing has happened so far. No bullets have been fired. It gave us an opportunity to do some own force reorientation, some restructuring, some reassignment of tasks, some equipping. I will not get into specifics. Some of these things are there in the open domain. And preparations. But more than that, I found one thing very good, which has been discussed by General Kandare today. And I was involved as QMG for this because 15th this happened, and 16th I handed over to Savneet sir, and 17th I flew down in a C-130 to Hindon here. The chief wanted me to take over immediately here. And 18th of June I was the QMG. So we had got involved in all this preparation. We were looking with the ENC and MJS and all. We were working together for the habitat. You'll be surprised. The best of habitat from within the country for those altitudes of -10, -15, -20 degrees, we got it. And in record time, they were put there for accretion forces that we taken there. Similarly, for clothing, I mean, we have read stories of 84 when you're shopping in European markets for your high altitude clothing. There are firms, not one.
If I may just stop
Yes,
you
sir.
there for a short while, because we can just take this question and make it a little more interesting.
Yes, sir.
The aspect of, you see, you mean to say the Chinese have just not thought this through? That strategically they are so disoriented, bringing 2 divisions into eastern Ladakh and hoping to be able to convey a message to the world on Wuhan virus and waken a sleeping tiger such as India and hoping to get away with this. Is this the kind of strategy thinking we associate with China?
Possibly they thought that we'll get countdown, sir. Possibly they thought we may not react as much. We may actually get into a negotiation. Chinese are known to, they consider negotiations as a weakness. But tough action, they respect it. And the example is in 86, when Somdrangchu incident happened. And General Sundarji was the chief. Here we had this side brass tacks, and we had all problems with this side, and Op Trident, and that side we had XI checkerboard, where we mobilized. Chinese for the first time since 62 saw us in some strength eyeball to eyeball. I was also there as part, I went there in 87 to relieve one of the battalions which had got initially. And that is the time Deng Xiaoping invited Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. 88 was the first time joint working groups were established for taking the talks on boundary question further. And then when we disengaged, 93 was the BPTA signed. All this happened because India showed the gumption to stand up to the Chinese. So possibly they thought that we'll get countdown, it'll make news, we'll get into negotiations, we'll get into talk mode. No. We said nothing doing. And it's easier said than done. This question has come that there cannot be business as usual. We heard all this. But the point is, Mr. Bharat Karnad rightly brought out that $97 billion of business has already been done. Why? Again, a lesson from there, sir, which will make us stronger.
So
We've started thinking of manufacturing here, sir. We've started thinking of making a civil manufacturing base, a defense industrial base, and both complementary. So you'll be able to leverage each other, and that's how the world, the bigger economies are doing. So these are good takeaways from what actually happened. An unfortunate thing where we lost 20 men, brave men, but then we take lessons from every incident that happens.
we'll take a step back.
Sir.
In the morning, we were discussing the two-front war. We were talking about China, Pakistan on one side. No one spoke of the half front. Some years ago, if you remember, we always spoke about the half front. So we've been speaking something about the half front here. Do you think there is any scope in this two-front strategy? Do you think there's a scope of reviving the half front? I'm asking you particularly, Northeast is stable. You've seen as well one brigade left in CI operations. The Assam Rifles is very confident, has taken over everything there. Kashmir is stable at the moment. There doesn't seem to be an air of any expectancy as far as the international, global terrorist environment is concerned. Do you think all this is past us and the half front should be forgotten? Or do you think there's a revival possible and the half front should always be a part of our strategic thinking?
Sir, we should take every possible step, a whole of government approach to ensure that the half front does not get revived. It is not good for us. It involves our own citizens. It impedes our own growth. So we should do everything that it takes to ensure. We should also make efforts to ensure that the no communal passions are arised ever and address them, and which the government is doing wholeheartedly. I'm sure nothing will get revived. And that is the only way we can then concentrate on development.
The integration of the Northeast in particular with your experience,
Yes.
ex-Josie's 57 day, etc. Do you think we have well past now and we are at a stage where we can really say the Northeast is very well integrated and revival of the possibility of something happening from the Chinese side particularly, looking at Arunachal and that area? Do you think there's a possibility of anything
So we
being
have to
revived?
create plenty of opportunities for Northeast. This government has taken a lot of steps, donor, ministry, and the investments have gone in. But there are fault lines, sir. I mean, Manipur itself is so complex. The hills and the Methi and the Cookies. Nagas again, NSC and IM is that. We have to engage with them. We have to bring in a lot of development. Train is reaching now from Jiribam to right up to Imphal. It's gone to Tupul. So development is the way. And we have to integrate them fully. I mean, get the youth, the side. We had taken those initiatives are working. Skill India is working. These boys are working as far as in Kerala. In hotels, you'll find these Manipuri boys. You go to malls here in Gurgaon, sir, you'll find Naga girls and Mizo girls and boys. So they're all coming this side. And I don't think China will be able to any successful in now planting empire unless we take somewhere we try and neglect that. But I think that we are past that. We should be able to. And armed forces
Let me
again.
ask you perhaps
Yes, sir.
what may be the last question of this session. And today nothing is spoken without a reference to the 9-month war in Ukraine, as you're aware. So recently we heard our Honorable Prime Minister speaking to President Putin and telling him that this is not the season for war. This is the arrival of India on the international
Yes.
strategic scene in no small way. With the American media, everyone writing about it, speaking about it, etc. Do you think this has given an enhancement to India's overall strategic capability to act as a intermediary in international conflicts, etc.? And built with this, give me 3 takeaways you think from Ukraine which strategically apply to our environment. Anything of your choice.
Firstly, that myth that conventional war will not take place is a thing of the past. is broken. Conventional wars may take place. It's happening. India has always talked because of the last campaign, it will be a lightning campaign. No. 9 months into a war, nowhere, the end is not in sight. That I feel that you have to be
These are the
prepared.
takeaways from there.
You require a war stamina, you require a defense industrial base, and imagine the casualty. If anything, it's true. I heard somewhere, I think it's to Mr. Shekhar Gupta or somewhere, 30,000 Russians dead. That is not, I don't know how far it's true because we are seeing it in the media. And what he was saying that this is we have not had since 47 to date this many numbers as our casualty, all put together including CI. So it's a bloody war. And same on Ukraine side. 1,500 tanks gone. And where are we? As regards Mr. Putin, sir, our Prime Minister, excellent rapport with all world leaders. And they're all looking at Mr. Modi to be able to influence. I'm sure he has conveyed it. He has conveyed it in open, in public. And I think a CO forum was somewhere, and we saw it, that it is not the time of war and dialogue and diplomacy are the way out. So the world is looking up to Mr. Modi and Mr. Jaishankar, and what a hands-on, absolutely foreign minister who is going around the world. And
55 meetings in 10 days.
yes, hands-on foreign minister. We couldn't have asked for anything more. And he has the full support of the political leadership. I think we are best placed. Such days should carry on, and we should then concentrate on Atmanirbhar Bharat.
So on that count, we have 40 seconds left only for our session. I think we conclude on the note that India is indeed strategically very confident today. And this graph is only going to continue to rise. So thank you very much. If there's time for questions, we can take it. Otherwise, we will end the session.
Any questions from your side?
Please.
Thank you very much, General Hasnain, General. It was very, very good. But I would like to ask you one question. And this question has been, it had come up during our discussions in Republic TV, etc. What do we require any more adjustments within our country? We are talking outside, whether the defense relationship with MOD, the armed forces, and etc., and the ministry, especially keeping in view the incident where ITBP, the finest paramilitary force, as I am concerned, because I have trained them, and they are very good. But was there any differences between Army and ITBP, the placement, arguments, etc.? Home Ministry, Defense Ministry question came up. Was there, or we would not like to answer it? Because this aspect is very important, because this came up number of times. And finally, we got to know, we came to understand that probably they are thinking in terms of discussing the matter, what relationship should be there, whether the whole area should be handed over to ITBP or not. Even this question came up, which we laughed at. So question is, what is the truth behind? Because you both being the generals, probably you can answer it better than anybody.
General Mishra may not like to answer the question as he has conveyed, but let me answer your question.
Thanks, sir.
And as you know that I respond a lot on television. And on television, you never express an opinion. Right? So the opinion basically is, when you have two very efficient forces functioning in the same environment, and you have alternatives all the time being discussed, conflicts will arise. Personality-based conflicts will arise. Reputational-based conflicts will arise. But ultimately, at the end of it, the convergence is only national. We are all fighting for the same cause. Whether at the tactical level a difference has taken place, operational level some difference has taken place, it will happen where human existence is there. And it's for us to overcome it. That's what mature leadership is all about. So I would say this is more a leadership issue than anything else. and not a psychological issue or something which we are obsessed with as forces, etc. It is temporary, many times momentary, based on leaderships, etc.
Not policy.
But sorry,
Is it not policy matter?
for that matter, the manning of the Assam Rifles is being discussed for the last 50 years. Have we changed it? We haven't. So we will continue discussing for the next 50 years.
But we have excellent coordination. There's no problem, absolutely. The troops there are absolutely in coordination, and the commanders there. So it's working fine. One reports to the Home Ministry, one reports to the Defense Ministry. They all converge here. So there's no harm. It's okay. In operations, yes, they'll be under operational control of the army.
Will they be?
Yeah,
That will be
100%.
in war. Yes,
100%.
war,
Even
in war,
BSF,
yes.
even BSF, invested border. All forces, SSB in the Nepal-Bhutan border. All. No, on
No,
ground.
warlike conditions, it will be.
It will be.
General Mishra, in your one of your interventions, you were talking about India's anti-insurgency operations, and
Counter.
and it was a bit of virtue signaling in my book, because you said that we don't use so much force, we fight with small arms, unlike what many of the other forces do. And my question is why? Because if you have an anti-insurgency situation, why should you sacrifice your own men when you enjoy overwhelming force, you enjoy overwhelming advantage? Why should you be constantly sacrificing your own troops in these kind of sniping attacks, and then leading to a situation where, for example, in a place like Kashmir, 30 years, I don't know if you are any closer to sorting it out than what you could have done when this whole thing started in the first instance. Look at the Americans, for all the pontification that they do on human rights. Look at the way they operate. Look at the way the Brits operate. Look at the way any other country operates. Why are we trying to virtue signal and say, no, we will only send in our army and behave like a police force to do this? Should there be a rethink?
I don't. You said our own men sacrificing. We consider the other side also our own men. They are our citizens in any case. Waylaid by an adversary who is our neighbor, and the problem lies there. So if those boys are waylaid and we start treating them as enemies, actually we are creating more boys will then go across. So this has been our principle.
Talking about the population.
The population. Population cannot be. And high-handedness, as a culture, as a policy, we have said no. Tell me, this is one country where so much of incident happened. Has there been an internal displacement? Internal displacement has happened of the Pandits. But has there been, and look at the other side. Look at the operations they have done. The Fatah and the earlier, on their side, Waziristan. See the amount of internal displacements they have had. We have not created such a situation. If you start such a situation, you will start finding internal displacement the whole world. There's no requirement as such. And we are not in a bad shape today. Well, like you're saying, we may not have solved the problem, but I told you the problem is not there. The problem is somewhere else. The problem didn't exist prior to 89. It didn't exist. And we have seen it happen in front of our eyes. So we have controlled it, and I think this is a better way of doing it rather than overkill. I don't think that's a...
We'll agree to disagree.
Thank you, General Hasnain and General Mishra. That was an extremely interesting session between two generals who have seen it all.